it's Elliott with Yo Elliott. You've got strength questions and I've got your answers.
Yo, Elliott.
Well, today I decided to create a video that further elaborates on my concept of the strength temple and answer some of the questions that I got from my previous video where I used some of these ideas in order to support one of my clients and that I will continue to support you and my clients with. Now, the idea here is that our nervous system, or actually our strength, is a function of our nervous system. Our strength in regards greater than to just how much you can bench press or squat or how many times you can flip a tire, but the strength is rooted in your nervous system, in your hormonal system, in your deep physiologies, the true strength and the essence of what I would like to see you express, what I would like to see everyone express, because this mere building up of the physical tissue, of the muscle, is really the most superficial form of becoming the strongest versions of ourselves. Although that plays a big part of it, and the way you physically look is generally going to be an expression of the type of person you are on the inside, all that stuff's very important. But when I'm talking about building up the inside, I'm talking about taking it to a degree that would have us pay great attention to our nervous system and the way we give and receive information with the environment in order to build up our true internal maximizable strength. So enough rambling with that regard to that. Let's discuss what I'm using here as a remix of the ancient ideal of the chakra system. And in that system, it recognizes that there are nerve vortexes or nerve bundles. And anybody in Western medicine understands this as well. And again, I use that term medicine lightly because I'm not a doctor. I'm a coach of building physical strength, building the body, and the nervous system is the regulator of what's happening in the muscles and the organs. And I can beat the crap out of you with Tabata squats and overhead presses and kipping chin-ups or whatever crap you want to do. But if you're physiologically damaged, you're wasting your time. You're masturbating. So, like I said, it's rooted in the physiology of an Eastern form of strengthening the body, in particular an Indian form of strengthening the body called the chakra system. And in that system, the recognition of bundles of nerves throughout our body, which are like the telephone cords that allow even like the electricity system that allows the mind to talk to the body and the body to talk to the mind. You want to bench press more weight, well, you've got to be able to elicit that response through your nervous system, and that's why we do things like slap ourselves in the face and get really psyched out, because it is giving you information that's allowing your body to express a particular type of activity. This is happening all the time, not just when you slap your buddy on the face so you can bench press 600 pounds. It's happening when you're walking around, going to the grocery store, trying to talk to a chick that's been ignoring you for years, trying to get a new job, trying to get a raise, trying to raise your children. Whatever it is that you're doing in life, there's a constant interaction of your nervous system with the environment, and it's being expressed in your body. That's why you can tell a person's intention by the way they look and talk. You know, if a person who walks around with their shoulders shrugged and their eyes looking down, you can tell that person does not have a healthy self-esteem, and the environment is going to react to that person in the same fashion that they're reacting to the environment through their physical expression, through their physical posture. How they got to be that way is a function of what they've received through their antenna. That's why I call this a strength temple, because like temples have been built throughout the ages, there's an antenna at the top, there's a giving and receiving. For generations, there's been this honoring of the top of the head. If you look at lots of Judeo-Christian forms of religion, they cover their heads. There's a particular type of respect given to this connection with the greater existence, God, if you will, or the universe, or nature. I don't care what you want to call it, but there's an interaction between us and the spiritual or unseen world. You know, call it whatever you will. Okay, so when I'm designing these exercise programs, or when I'm assessing a person, or I'm looking at you, and we all do this, except I'm bringing conscious awareness to it. You know, you judge people by the way they look, you judge people by the energy you're receiving from them, and it's all a function of what I'm about to describe to you. So I'm going to cut the crap and get right to exactly what's happening here and what I mean by this concept of the strength temple. Now, like I said before, we started at the top. This is where we're giving and receiving most of our information. And this is nothing super scientific or dogmatic or religious. The fact is that we've got a shitload of nerves in this area. It's called our brain. It's a big glob of neurons and chemicals and electric things shooting on and off that we're just beginning to understand. And I say we because I'm thinking of the West, but there has been this attention paid to and this carrying on of a tradition of understanding the body that I think has been lost in the West. Where forms of Qigong, Tai Chi, martial arts has always understood it or has carried that tradition on. So this head, face, eye area where you can give and receive information. I'm talking to you, but I'm also receiving information. I'm hearing things, I'm saying things, I'm tasting things, I'm chewing things, I'm digesting things. It all starts right here. So that's exactly where we're going to start in honoring this strength temple. And this area is generally associated with, in regard to the development of becoming the strongest version of yourself, a certain set of ideals for the mind, spirit, or emotion, as well as the body. And like I described earlier, there's no way that your body is going to express something that the brain is not going to, isn't in alignment with. There has to be a full connection. I think Ralph Waldo Emerson says that what you say means nothing compared to what you actually are. So you can say all the shit that you want, but simply by looking at someone or feeling their energy, you can see that there's a disconnect between what's happening in the mind and what's happening in the body. What your words say doesn't necessarily denote what's actually happening. And the body is usually the best teller of what's actually happening. And that's why I'm so intrigued with this idea. That's why I'm so intrigued with becoming the strongest version of myself and sharing this with you so that you can take this information, assess yourself, look at where you're overly developed or underdeveloped, either in body or in mind, emotion, hormonal. Anyway, let's get rocking. So this area, the mind, is associated with intuition, imagination, and self-reflection. Now we also know that there are muscles that are associated with this area, and there are glands, hormone glands, a master gland in particular that regulates hormones of the body. And like I said, it's associated with the muscles of the face, head, and upper neck. Now it's very interesting to note that if a person has a dysfunction of the mind, and the general dysfunction of the mind is illusion. So there are a lot of people who have depression, or people who have who think themselves higher than they actually are. They're very either overexpressed or underexpressed in this way, and it becomes an actual physical ailment. So hormone regulation is off, and they feel sad or depressed, can't get enough energy, have all types of dysfunctions that travel down the nervous system and become apparent in the way they carry themselves, the way they live their lives. They end up weak, sick, sad, fat, on pills, and it's just a spiraling downhill that ultimately feeds pharmaceutical companies and processed food manufacturers and your doctor bill. So to consider that this is where a lot of it is beginning, especially because that's where we're giving and receiving information, is helpful. And we're making our way down, but generally speaking, this is the foundation, and most of the time we work our way up, but it just happens to be where I'm starting. The second area, the second zone, or the second chakra, or the second nerve bundle is associated with the mind connection of communication, creativity, self-expression. So, self-expression, I'm jabbering my jaw away. It's a way of me to communicate, to be creative with you, because I'm hearing, I'm giving and receiving information through this general area, and I'm expressing myself with you. And that's exactly what we do. Now, a person who has, let me not jump around too much, it's also associated with the thyroid gland, metabolism, the neck and shoulders. So a person who is dysfunctional in this particular area, emotionally or cognitively or spiritually, will find that they're very shrugged up or tight in their neck and shoulder area, jaw clicking, a lot of tension here. I think a lot of us end up with a lot of neck and upper shoulder tension. It's simply because, as children we were told to sit down and shut up. When we're in school, we gotta sit down. I mean, they gave me Ritalin as a kid because I wouldn't shut my mouth, and I ended up communicating and being creative and expressing myself way too freaking much. So you have to shut this down. What ultimately then happens is there's a clenching of the muscles in that area and the organs that are all tied in with that nerve bundle. So it's like a channel. The thyroid and the neck, shoulder area, they're all on the same channel. So you switch one off, and the other one goes off because, like I said, like they're all in the same neurological loop, right? So as we work our way down, and like I mentioned it before, there's an overexpression or an underexpression of the psycho-emotional mind connection. You're going to find someone who talks too much and never listens. That's a person who's got a dysfunction here that's evident emotionally, or a person who I've got a friend who doesn't hear very well in one ear, and he talks very softly. And he becomes very frustrated because everywhere he goes, he's from an area of the country where they're kind of calm and relaxed and they don't talk very much. But he always gets upset later on after the conversation because he's like, I didn't get a chance to talk. There'll be like a group of friends and he'll be trying to express himself and he's listening and he wants to get his words in, but he can't talk loud enough and he has a hard time hearing. So the expression physically in this area will present itself as neck pain, shoulder pain, tension in that area. Moving down, the heart region, the heart chakra, the heart nerve vortex or nerve bundle that's tied in with the actual organ of the heart is associated with peace, love, self-acceptance, and the muscles and organs of the heart, the immune system, the upper back, and chest. This is another one that's evident through a person's posture. Are you a hugger? And not necessarily do you physically hug people, but are you open and embracing when people meet you? Or do you hide, or you shrug down, or do you protect your heart? And do you end up with a lot of pain in the upper back? Do you end up with a lot of sickness, immune dysfunction? Do you accept yourself? Can you give and receive love unconditionally? This is another one that ends up being quite dysfunctional in society. We're constantly being shut off from developing meaningful relationships with one another. I've mentioned this in videos before, that this idea of friendship no longer really exists, and it has a lot to do with the establishment's systems of keeping us separate, starting with compulsory education and this idea of sitting in little desks and pods and everyone's your enemy and you pay attention to the talking creature up front that feeds you information, but it's really just conditioning you to become a good cog in the tax-paying system. That's another rant. But anyway, moving down, we've got this area that's associated with our solar plexus, our breathing, digestion and assimilation. With regard to mind, emotion, spiritual, it's also associated with power, ego, and self-determination. This is the fire of the nervous system. We bring in oxygen, let it out. We're fueling the fire of the nervous system. You can really breathe yourself into a frenzy, and you then, when you do that, or when you really magnify the power that's associated with this region, you end up with an inflated or a very healthy sense of self-determination, self-power. All of us are born with a particular tendency towards shutting down or opening up some of these particular areas. I tend to study myself, and I invite you to all do the exact same thing. And through my studying myself, this is the things that I come up with, and that's why I share it with you. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm compelled to share it. But anyway, through the studying of myself, I realized that this is my dominant area. I understand that I have an attachment to the ego and power and self-definition. I'm always thinking of myself first. I don't want to put a label as good or bad to it, but it's just being aware and then being disconnected from your tendencies as a person. For example, my mother is very, as most moms tend to be, very high expressed in this area of the heart and the love. My mom is just constantly, it doesn't matter who you are or what the situation is, she expresses her love and she can give and receive love. I'm not so good at that all the time. Moving down, there's this area that's associated with desire, sexuality, and self-gratification. And the organs that are associated with it and the muscles that are associated with it are the lower abdominals, the in particular your colon, the digestive organs, and your sexual organs. And we're getting down to the roots. We're getting lower and lower and lower. And these are more base needs. They're more survival oriented. They're more, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, actually, if you pin it up right against here, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it will look exactly the same. There's this desire that we're going to talk about down here later, with self-preservation, safety, and security. But then there's this one here that's associated with tribal association, which ultimately is sexuality. It's our ability to procreate. It's our ability to gratify the self. My daughter is in the age right now where she's, by the way, we move through different evolutions of this throughout our lives. My daughter is in an age, my third daughter, where right now she's just recognizing self-gratification. She's sort of moving from self-gratification to ego power. So she has these weird things where like she has to like hold the door open for everybody when we're leaving the house. Otherwise she's not gratified. She has to establish that self-definition and that self-gratification. Otherwise she breaks down, throws herself on the floor and goes nuts. It's like a stupid little thing. And the abdominals, the lower abdominals, the colon is also associated with this. So it's interesting to note that when we eat a diet high in processed foods and we have all these digestive issues, constipation and diarrhea and all the crap that we have going on as a society, the dysbiosis, I talked about fungal infections and things of that nature with the colon, that our vitality is low. And that's why the sale of blue pills is very high. That's why the amount of couples that cannot have children anymore, infertility, these infertility clinics are just opening up everywhere. People cannot have children anymore. And a lot of this dysfunction is the shutting down of the sexual function due to the neurological loop in the tying to the colon. So what we eat is highly attached to the type of vitality and sexuality that you can produce. And then finally, and I should have started down here, but there's our legs, our roots, our connection. If I mentioned this earlier as our antenna to the universe or to God, then down here are our roots, our grounding, what keeps us pragmatic and stable, associated with the earth, being able to get things done. It's really we've got this going up and coming down that needs to be evenly balanced with regard to giving and receiving information and then manifesting, creating, being physically here. And like I said before, it's associated with grounding, self-preservation, survival. Maslow's hierarchy of needs would say safety and security. You need a roof over your head. It doesn't matter how freaking spiritual you are, you're going to need food or you're going to die eventually. And it's associated with the fight or flight response, our adrenal glands, legs, hips, and feet. Like I said, it's literally, if you take a look at the nerves that just drive, I'll just pinch up some pictures here for you guys so you can see. I'll attach them up. But it literally looks like a root that's grounding itself into the earth. And that's how the human tree or the human strength temple has been designed by our Creator. Now, like I said earlier, if you've listened this far, clearly this is something that may be of interest to you. You know what? I've decided that it really doesn't matter if 1,000 people don't enjoy this and don't benefit from this information. That's fine. But if 5 do, I'm here to support you. And that's exactly why I have this desire to share this with you. There are several different types of people out there. You've got your meatheads, your pretty boys in the establishment, none of which I have any concern to serve. They already know what they need to know. I'm looking for a very small minority, a small percentage, probably 1 or 2% that are deeply committed to becoming the strongest version of themselves, no matter what it looks like. Beyond the superficial building building up of muscle or the development of muscle strength. All of that is an expression of what's happening here. That's why we got so many people getting cosmetic surgery to patch up their ugly outsides because their insides are rotten and deteriorating because they've never been shown concepts like this. Did you know that the way you're thinking has deformed your body? And that's why your face sags, women's breasts are hanging to the floor because their posture is deformed, people's bellies extend because they've got all types of digestive dysfunctions and issues that deteriorate their vitality, their sexuality. You're a freaking mess. And you want six-pack abs? And you want to squat 400 pounds? Let's get this shit right first. Let's start with the physiology. Let's start with our nervous system. Let's start with the building of the strength temple from the inside out. And then ultimately, your body has no choice but to exude confidence and beauty because it will be coming from the inside out. Not very popular, especially in a culture that wants to cut your face so you look prettier or to give you six-pack abs in 3 minutes a day. This shit doesn't work. I wouldn't lie to you. The reason why I share all this information with you at a deeper level is because everyone out there, there's so much noise. They're all giving you information that clearly doesn't work. Otherwise, everyone would be fit. We've got to take it several steps back. We've got to go back to the roots of what we are as human beings beyond what the television tries to force down our throats as to an ideal that makes absolutely no sense. Living way beyond our means. Being highly stressed and conditioned. So that's what I bring you here today, folks. You're either with it or you're against it. Either way, I'll continue to share it. Talk to you next time.
Yo, Elliot,